Hey y'all, welcome back to the Team LoCoFit Roundtable. I am once again joined by Coach Lauren, aka Blonde, and LOL, OLOL. We had lots of difficulties on the last podcast. If you guys checked it out, you heard about our horror stories of trying to get this going. And then I also realized that I recorded it in a really weird view. So if you were watching the video playback, it was like one person and then it would just bounce. Anyways, then I was all excited that we started this podcast without any issues. And then I realized that my mic wasn't plugged in. So we had to restart.
It's literally, we're going on almost an hour and a half. And we've only done a half hour of podcast. Like, that is how much we have been fucking around with the audio.
Why are we like this? So
I don't know.
In any case, if you guys did not check out the last podcast, we talked all about body fat settling points, and we talked about a lot of stuff, but body fat settling points and, dieting below that, and, kind of how that looks and how that kind of plays into just like, eating and training goals. And we covered a lot on that one. So if you haven't listened to that one, we would highly encourage you to check that one out. But this one is something that is very near and dear to Blonde currently, and something that we actually do get a lot of questions about, because obviously pretty much everybody on the team is, has been to school and has, almost multiple degrees. And it's something that we're very passionate about. We love science. We love higher education. So we get a lot of questions about it. And so right now, Lauren is in the process of becoming a registered dietitian, or RD. And so some people will ask about just that in general. Like, hey, I want to be an RD. And I just wanted to kind of go through the process for you guys, because it is a lot more in depth than just getting obviously like some kind of a certification. And it's obviously, it's a lot more in depth than just getting a degree. So fun fact, actually, for everybody, I started as a dietetics major at Florida State, which actually has a really, really good program. So if you're interested in dietetics and you're in the state of Florida, I would highly suggest checking out Florida State. It has one of the best programs, and we have some really awesome classes there that they don't even offer really at other places. They weren't necessarily DPT classes, which we'll talk about, but they were just really, really awesome, just like nutrition. Like we had like 2 different classes just on metabolism, which was like not like a normal thing. So really, really awesome program there. I eventually switched to exercise science because I wanted a little bit more flexibility with kind of what I could do afterwards. And I just realized that probably the RD track was not for me at that time. And I was getting more into research kind of on the other areas. So I had some professors suggest to do exercise science, which was good and bad, because switching your major, as a second year student. So I'd already done 2 years. And then basically I was like, oh, I'll switch. And my parents were like, oh, that's cool, but you have to graduate on time. So whatever that means, you got to do it. So that summer I did, it was miserable. I took Bio 1 and Bio 1 Lab, which at Florida State, like all the science classes are gnarly. Like, I mean, it was gnarly. So it was a whole 13-week class. And then I took pre-calc in 6 weeks and trigonometry in 6 weeks. So my summer was awesome. If you guys couldn't
tell. Is devastating.
It was a devastating summer. And then I had to do, because for dietetics, we didn't have to do all the bios, all the chems, all the physics, and you have to do that at Florida State. Exercise science is basically like pre-med with some exercise classes. So I hadn't done any of those, which most people would have done in the earlier years, because I didn't need to do them. And so I had to play major catch up and completely slam my schedule with like all hard sciences. And it was a pretty gnarly switch, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm very glad that I did it. Obviously I got to help out with some cool research, and then of course I got to go to Dr. Campbell's program and do my own cool research. So I still ended up doing a lot with food and food behavior, so it ended up working out pretty well. But first steps first, like, hey, I want to go be a registered dietitian. Let's kind of just go on your track of what you've done.
So I took a very roundabout approach to this, because my undergrad degree is actually in kinesiology. And then my minor in undergrad was nutrition. So I finished that. I was just personal training. I ended up going back for my master's, and I did my master's in exercise science. So I was kind of like, I'm going to go get this advanced degree, and it's going to help me decide if I want to stay more in the human movement kinesiology world, or if I want to go the dietetic route. So I decided after completing that I still love the training and the programming, but I really wanted to pursue a more full-time career in dietetics and nutrition. So I went back again and finished out the dietetic degree. So what that means is, if you decide to go into college and you start on the dietetic course, you will have to complete certain classes. So they're called DPD curriculum. So you have to complete the required curriculum that would eventually make you eligible to apply for a dietetic internship upon completion of your bachelor's degree in dietetics. So for me, my minor in nutrition, fortunately, obviously helped me out. So I had already completed some of those prereqs required to do the dietetic internship. So when I went back after my master's, I had to finish up the classes that I had not taken in order to get the dietetic degree. So that looks like a lot of basic nutrition classes. You have your biochem, you have your OChem, you have your gen chem. So you take all of those. I'm trying to think about some medical nutrition therapy, things like that. So you do all of that. So you can either do that in 4 years.
Nutrition through the life cycle. I remember that one.
Oh yeah.
I actually think that was the class that made me switch my major because
you were like,
no. Our professor was so bad.
Oh.
Like so bad that I was like. That
must be a trend because so was mine for that class.
Dude, I was like, I cannot get out of here fast enough.
Yeah. They're like, what class should this person teach? I don't know, just go nutrition through the life cycle. So
I still have that book here.
Yeah. Good times. So you do all of that. So then the next step so here's the thing. If you graduate with a dietetic degree, you are not a registered dietitian. Okay.
Big disclaimer, everybody.
You're really not anything besides somebody with a nutrition degree. Okay. Don't go online and call yourself a registered dietitian. You're not. Technically, anyone can call themselves a nutritionist, which is a topic for another day. So if you want to actually have the license and be a registered dietitian upon completion or while you're completing, so typically in like the last semester of your senior year, you will be applying to dietetic internships. So what that looks like is it's through a what's called DICAS. So it has to be an accredited internship, 1,200 hours, and every internship, I'm like sweating talking about it. You have to do a clinical rotation, a community rotation, and a food service rotation. And then depending on kind of like the emphasis of that particular internship will determine how long you're in each of those rotations over the course of the internship, but you have to do all 3 of those rotations. So for me, my internship is through the University of Chicago, and I am on the medical track. So the majority of my time was spent in the medical clinical rotation, and I'm just now getting into my wellness rotations or my community rotations, and then I end in food service. Mm-hmm. So I have a much shorter time in those other 2, and I was heavy clinical. So
and every program will be a little bit different, like you said.
Yes.
And I would imagine that you would apply. Well, you're gonna have to apply and hope that you get it anywhere, but you could apply with like, hey, I want to go. It's just like schools basically. It's like you have to apply based on what you're interested in.
Yeah, you have to apply based on what you're interested in. You also have to apply based on what is actually realistic for you to get chosen for, because how the internship acceptance works is it is a matching system. So you can apply to whatever schools you want. You rank them, they rank you, and you pray that you get matched, because if you don't get matched, you didn't get into an internship. So it's kind of like, can you choose? Sort of. But you end up picking the schools that you like. You hope to get interviews. Not every school interviews. So if they don't interview, you won't get called back. So you don't really know where you stand in their ranking. So fun. I chose to only rank the schools that I got interviews from, just so I had a guarantee that they were actually considering me. So then you go ahead and rank them in your online system. They will rank you after all that interviewing is over. And then on one special day, way too late in the evening so that you get to think about it all day, it's match day, and everybody logs on at the same time, so your computer freezes and you're sweating and you're kind of crying, and then on your screen will pop up where you got accepted if you got accepted. So I think right now the acceptance rate is about 49%, so it's very competitive. And when you get in, you go. So grateful that I got into one. It's an amazing program. So then what does that look like afterwards? So you accept your internship.
So first offer. I do want to touch on a few things that we did hit though. So one, if you do want to go, if you know that you're going to get a degree, so we'll use Jill as an example. She actually has her undergrad in dietetics.
Yeah.
And when she started, she wasn't sure what she wanted to do with it. you know, kind of like most people, right? And then
Yeah.
she realized that she didn't necessarily want to go get the RD. Doesn't mean that her degree was a waste, because she still learned a lot in that situation that would help, of course, with what she's doing now as a coach. And she also got into the exercise science program with Dr. Campbell. So it was still like a relevant, you know, degree. It wasn't like she was in accounting and then decided to go get the master's in exercise science. So which you still could do, but you would definitely need like prereqs, et cetera. So if you're not sure if you want to do the whole RD thing, but you do want to learn about nutrition, it would be a good degree to get it. So it's not pointless to get a dietetics degree, but you can't call yourself a registered dietitian, and you certainly, you know, can't help people the way that somebody like you is going to be able to. And would you say that most people who are in the programs have masters also?
So the thing about the license is that in 2024, it's going to start being required that you have a master's in order to be a registered dietitian. So anybody that's in an internship right now is grandfathered into that essentially. But you can apply to, and if you want to get a master's, you can apply to programs that are called combined programs. So you do your internship while you are doing your master's, and those are usually about 2 years. I already had my master's, so I was not looking for that. So I just was looking for internships that were independent, and you're just completing the 1,200 hours. So 9 of us got accepted into this internship, and I think 3 of us have masters. So it's still less than half.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. That sounds just like a requirement. Like if anybody knows, like before when you didn't have to, and I don't remember if it was a master's or what it was, but to be a physical therapist. But now you have to have an undergrad, and then you have to go to DPT school. So you have a doctorate in physical therapy. It's not the same thing as getting a regular PhD, because it's only about 3 years. And there's internships and stuff, but you're not doing like research necessarily. I mean, I'm sure you could, but most people don't have to do that. So it is a little bit different. But it kind of sounds like, the same idea is like, it's just more competitive. So people are doing that. So recap, definitely have to have an undergrad kind of, or some kind undergrad and or master's with those particular classes. And those are all laid out.
Very specific classes.
And if I remember correctly, you have to like passing is like a B minus or plus.
Right? You can't have C's.
Which is actually a distinguishing thing. But in any case, so that's, you know, undergrad or master's, you're going to need those certain classes, and then you can apply to the internship. Lauren just talked about the internship process. So then now, kind of keep going.
So after the internship, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You keep freezing.
Oh,
it's beautiful. I'm going to, you're frozen on my end. I'm going to keep walking around my house to find a good signal. So, so you get accepted. So then my program started in August. So it goes the middle of August until the beginning of June. So my program is just 10 months. It seemed to be when I was applying that most are about 12. This is a little shorter, but it depends on how many days a week you're working. So I'm in a 40-hour work week. Therefore, I get my program done in 10 months, whereas some you might only go Monday through Thursday, whatever. And then obviously, as I just stated, if you're in a combined program, it's going to be about 2 years because you're also taking classes. So once you do that, you start going through your rotations. I think every internship is a little different as far as what they expect from you and what you have to do. So like my internship is not just going to my rotations. So I started out in clinical, so I was seeing patients in the hospital from August to, literally just 3 weeks ago. So that was a big chunk of my internship, considering I only have 3 months left. But on top of that, I had to write a 30-page paper. I had to give a big presentation at a innovative concepts of nutrition seminar in front of a bunch of other RDs. So and then we do some community stuff on the side as well. So I'm not working 40 hours a week. It's much more than that. And so I think they don't do a great job in undergrad kind of telling you what to expect during the internship. And I don't know if that's because they can't just say blanket, this is how it is, because it's going to vary from program to program. But it is very demanding. It's very intensive, as anything would be that's 10 months that you have to learn everything. So the point of the internship is for you to pass your RD exam. So for me, my passion is in sports nutrition, but unfortunately sports nutrition is not on the RD exam. Therefore, there is no sports nutrition rotation. So everything you're doing is to set you up to pass the exam. So that's the next thing. So you completed your DPD courses, you got your dietetic degree, you're doing your internship. Upon completion of your internship, you have to pass a board exam. So it's like a cumulative standardized exam that every future RD has to take and pass. So I will do that. My internship ends June 5th. My goal is to have that completed by the middle of July at the latest. I just kind of want to buckle down, study everything I need, kind of refresh my memory on past rotations. Obviously, it's going to have been a while since I was in clinical by that time because I ended food service. So just kind of like refreshing and then take that. So you have to get that, pass it, and then you need to pass it in the state with which you will be working so that you are licensed in that state. So that is, once you have that, you are actually a registered dietitian. So until you have your license, even though you're done with the internship, you're still like dietetic or RD expected by whatever. And so if you start working somewhere, some places will allow you to apply and start working as long as you have your license within 6 months of hire. However, from what I know and what I've seen is that if you take those positions, you still cannot like sign your own notes. You're still not kind of like a free reign dietitian. Somebody still has to oversee what you're doing because you don't actively have your license.
Yeah.
So it's a long journey and there's a lot of steps along the way. But I think
for the right reasons, like
for
the
sure.
things that people are doing as RDs,
yeah.
For the most part, particularly in clinical situations,
yeah,
you do need to go through all this training.
So, and that's what makes us different than a nutritionist. So Lauren was saying, like, once I have this license, I'll be able to do things that other people can't that don't have the license. Mm-hmm. So I will be able to practice clinically if I wanted to. I don't, but I could. So I could work in a hospital. I could write tube feeding prescriptions, things like that. I can also write meal plans as a registered dietitian. So a lot of people don't know, but it's actually illegal for somebody that's not a registered dietitian to write up a meal plan. Yes. I feel like I just blew a ton of minds because a lot of you were probably given meal plans from a coach that is not a registered dietitian.
I bring this up at seminars and, sometimes I'm talking to people who are giving people meal plans and I say, listen, like I'm saying this in a way that like, you just have to be careful. And obviously like, you can put disclaimers and you can put all these different things. But I always find that unless somebody is a registered dietitian, it's going to be a better situation to give, hey, here's like suggested foods or we help a lot of clients currently do like self-created meal plans and things of that nature. And that's something that we can do. But I'm really excited that we will be able to offer like, hey, if you want to be able to do meal plans, we have the ability to do that because there's a lot of people who do want that. So, we'll be able to build that out and just kind of add it on to, either it's like its own standalone service or add it on to current clients. Stuff like, hey, if you want a meal plan, here's this too. So I'm really excited about that. And then of course, everything will be, looked over by you and have that ability and, have those letters and just make it a little bit more official. So I'm really excited for that. And it does add a layer of credibility. It does not mean that if you're not a registered dietitian that you are a bad fitness coach, nutrition coach at all. But it just means that there's certain things like legally that you just have to be a little bit more careful with. And the whole nutritionist thing, like basically kind of anybody can say that. And it's kind of the same thing as like being an online coach, right? There really is no standard. And I get this question a lot. People who have all the best intentions, they want to do this. And they say, I want to be an online coach. What certification should I get? And I was always taught by Dr. Campbell, whether this is right or wrong, but that a degree is always going to hold a lot more than a certification. So I tell people, I don't have any certifications. I used to have a personal training certification because I did do some personal training in person. I don't hold it anymore because I did for many years and I never used it. Again, but so I do see that there are value to certifications and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. But if somebody's really, really interested in learning, I'd be like, hey, do you want to maybe go back to school? Because in my opinion, just having a certification does not mean that you're now better. It can help, certainly, but it doesn't necessarily, mean anything. So a lot of times, sometimes if I'm with people who maybe don't know kind of what I do, and it's just like, yeah, I just have this master's. Like, some people would be like, oh, but this person has a certification. It's like, well, this is actually better. But some people don't know that, you know what I mean? So I would say that if you want to further your education, really, really think actually about going back to school, just so you can have a deeper dive into it. But I realize that not everybody can do that. It's just not an option for everybody. So getting a good certification is not going to hurt. And, doing things like I always try to promote going to seminars, because you really learn so much from going to seminars with people who are very educated in kind of what you want to do. And I mean, some of the seminars that I present at, specifically, like, we're talking to coaches, you know what I mean? So like, the one that I do, it's called the Physique Education Collective. It's like me with a handful of other coaches. Actually, the next one that we're doing for anybody listening here will be April 4th in Nashville. And typically everybody that were there, like the last one that we did in Atlanta, I polled the room and there was about 30 people. And I would say, I was like, hey, who's either between a personal trainer or online coach? It was there was probably like 3 people who were just like an enthusiast. People. And 2 of them were my clients who just wanted to come to like learn more. Most people there were in some capacity were doing this. So a lot of people just need to learn more. And I would say, hey, just going to events like that is going to be amazing. And again, is that better than a certification? There's not like a right or wrong thing. It's more of just like there is no set way to do things.
No.
But there is a set way to do things when it comes to writing meal plans and giving out advice in that situation. Wow, it got really dark in here. And I feel like as the podcast has gone on, I've just like
it just keeps getting darker and darker. It's very interesting what's happening over there. And it's like your conversation is getting like a little more deep, and then the light is following it. And it's just like, this is wow, this is turning into a show. If you're not watching, you need to be, because now I can barely even see your hair. It's so dark.
Yeah, I'm of course wearing a black shirt and I have black hair. Happening? I mean, are we even surprised at everything?
Lauren one time made me actually change for a podcast because she thought that my turtleneck sweater was too emo. And now here she is, simply ahead among blackness.
Dude, it was such an emo sweater and you had no neck. Like,
I had no neck. It was like,
I mean, not like I have a lot of neck.
It was like this. I was like,
not like I have a lot of neck right now, but that was a really aggressive turtleneck.
Oh, it was so aggressive. And oh man, yeah. I was feeling some type of way apparently that day. I was like, here I am.
This is like embodying our perception right now. So if you guys are interested, of course, in going to seminars, do it. If you're interested in learning more, go to school. And if you do want a good certification, really one of the best ones that I promote is actually Dr. Joe's certification. It's called NAMS, N-A-M-S, namscert.com. And, it kind of covers a wide variety of different things on there. But, there's no right or wrong way to do things. But if you are going to be trying to write meal plans, if you're not an RD, you really, I would say, really steer clear of that and maybe just help clients kind of with their diets, with more suggested foods or self-created meal plans from the client.
Yeah. Obviously, if you are like this track that I'm on is to become, like a licensed practitioner. So there is a very cut and dry way that it needs to be done. You need to meet certain hours, you need to meet certain criteria, you need to be cleared as competent in certain domains, things like that. So, I have exams at the end of every rotation and things like that. But as far as somebody that maybe that's not going that route, I think what Lauren said is amazing. And I think that what makes somebody very lethal and just like a force in this world and kind of sets them apart is when you have the education plus experience. So, like I went to school for exercise science. I did an advanced master's degree in exercise science. But did I learn how to change the angle on a cable for my personal training clients in my master's program? No, like I took biomechanics.
But you learned that through practice.
Exactly. There's a lot of hands-on that's required and will speak volumes, but you need to be around the right people and find the right people to learn from. So if anybody's interested in continuing education, what I was taught as far as searching for like a master's program or maybe even an internship, even though you don't have as much control over that, is find who you want to work with and apply there.
Yeah.
Don't just go to a school that you think might be cool.
No.
Do your research, find a professor
Especially
that you want to work
degree.
under.
Yeah.
Find a professor that's doing research that you're interested in and apply there.
That's why I went to Dr. Campbell's program.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's how you're going to learn.
And it was like barely what it is now. You know what I mean? Now it is so ultra specific to like what we do. It's crazy and it's amazing. But yeah, and then we actually me and Jill did a podcast on this, like the importance of doing in-person work.
Yeah.
It cannot be overstated in my opinion. And I would really, really encourage everybody, if you haven't listened to that podcast, to go check it out. It's a few podcasts back, but we gave some really, really good practical tips for people on becoming if you want to be a better online communicator, you need to do things in person as well. And I would not say that enough. And the reason that all of us on Team LoCoFit are good at communicating online is not only obviously practicing that skill, but also working in person with people. You were a personal trainer for many years. Jill helped out with research and was a personal trainer. Karina, same thing, has helped out in 2 different labs and has done it. So there's so many different things that like in-person work is going to be able to help versus, just communicating online.
And I think that's that's something that I pride myself in working with Team LoCoFit, is that we have all kind of sought out these opportunities to advance ourselves, not only for our own purposes, but as coaches. Like Lauren said, we've had questions before on if having an advanced, like a master's degree, is required to be a coach on our team. And that's just, we do these things and we spend these times in these labs because we want to be able to provide as much quality coaching that we possibly can. And all of these things are making us more credible. And being able to do that, because there's so much out there now. We have to set ourselves apart, and not only we love it, thank God, because that makes it easier to do all of these things, but it's also because that's what we would look for in somebody that we wanted to work with. So we want to have that as well. So
you don't look at somebody who doesn't embody the education and the experience.
No. Yeah. So I think that kind of sets us apart as coaches, and the fact that we are able to communicate, because there's something to be said for somebody that's incredibly book smart and can go get an RD license, but maybe you can't speak to somebody and make eye contact. So what does that,
dude, that is so crazy to me when I go and interact with people, and and that's a whole different conversation, but like, I know we're both like old souls, but like, it's just crazy to me. Like, I would much rather 1,000 times over spend time with people in person and never touch my phone versus
1,000%.
being good on my phone and on social media, and then somebody comes and talks to you in person and they can't. And now I get it, some people are a lot more introverted, and I'm fully aware of that, but there's a difference of being introverted and not being able to communicate. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's a huge difference.
Shy, and still be able to communicate.
Carry a conversation. Yeah. And that's also, go ahead.
No, that's a skill that has to be developed. You don't just wake up with that.
No. And that's also why we do, this is not an every week thing, but we do try to incorporate things such as phone calls or, video messages to our clients, because it is so important to us that, especially if we feel that we can't get our point across, because there's some things you can't say in an email. There's some things that shouldn't be said in an email, in my opinion, depending on the topic and how the tone needs to be across. Video. And if you can't do that, like, I don't know. I just think that personal touch is so important to be able to read, because we don't get to meet every single one of our clients in person. We just can't. And that's what's beautiful about this, is that we can have so many people from all over the place. We still have to be able to connect with them on that level and have that trust. And, like, we're here for you and we're not just an email. So I think that is another element that we like to incorporate. That's just very important to us and separates us as well. So
as a closing point, I think that anything that you can get involved with, whether it is school, furthering your education, going to in-person events, helping out in a lab, doing personal training, any of those things that you can do to not only educate yourself more, but also develop better skills, is going to make you so much better in all aspects of your life. But of course, kind of in this coaching environment. and working with people environment. And you'll be a better client too. If you're just listening and you want to be a client,
sure.
you'll be better at that too if you just are more involved with everything and understand kind of communication patterns, because sometimes as a client it's hard to communicate too. So learning how to communicate on both ends is really, really important. So yeah, if you guys are interested, if you have any RD questions, I'm going to say funnel them to Lauren, because she's obviously the almost expert in this. I'm super excited for you to be able
deep right now.
Balls deep into the RD program. So really excited for you to be wrapping that up and officially be Team LoCoFit's RD. If you guys have any questions, of course, let us know. We would really appreciate if you could subscribe and leave a review. That means the world to us. We're really trying to pump out awesome content for you guys and really get this podcast rolling. So we're taking it a lot more seriously. So if you could leave us a review, we'd greatly appreciate it. 10 stars only. You know the drill. Yeah. And then for all other information, whether it is podcast links, tons of great articles, products that we have, and then also just applying for coaching, you can go to our site, teamlocofit.com. It is all there. And we thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you next week.